Welcome, dearly beloved anointed ones. Every now and then the universe places someone in the world whose presence is so undeniable that rooms quietly rearrange themselves the moment they walk in. Chosen one, that's you. And whether you've accepted it or not, the people around you have been studying your every move like analysts trying to crack a code. They've been watching how you carry yourself, how you make decisions, how you see what no one else sees, while they're still trying to figure out which direction their own life is supposed to face. Your presence has become their reference point, your vision has become their measuring stick, and your strategy has become the unspoken blueprint they keep returning to, even when they pretend they're not paying attention. Here's the truth. Behavioral researchers say that humans naturally gravitate toward people who appear to possess foresight, composure, and direction. Not authority figures, not celebrities, real people. People they encounter, people they observe, people who seem to walk through life like they already know where every road leads. That's why your presence has become the topic of conversations you've never been part of. People respect you not because you demand it, but because something about the way you move makes respect feel automatic. You've become the person others quietly try to decode, the unexpected force in their environment they didn't anticipate but cannot dismiss. You're the one who saw the patterns before anyone else, who acted while others were still hesitating, and who carried a vision so clear that life eventually bent toward it. While others performed for visibility, you positioned yourself for impact. And ironically, that's what made everyone look. The universe really does have a sense of timing. Your presence has become its own statement. Your vision has become its own legacy. And your strategy has become the proof. Today, we're diving deep into why your presence carries such weight, why your vision commands silent respect, and why your strategy is admired even by those who would never tell you to your face. Because the truth is simple. You didn't become powerful on purpose. You became powerful because you learned to see, to wait, to move, and to build when everyone else was reacting. And now your very existence challenges people to think before they act. Let's get into it. Number 1. Your presence isn't loud, it's gravitational. You don't enter rooms, you realign them. Most people believe presence is about being seen, being heard, or making sure the spotlight finds them. They think the louder the entrance, the stronger the impact. But your presence operates by a completely different law. You don't walk into a space and try to take it over. You simply arrive, and the energy of the room slowly bends toward where you're standing. People shift the way they sit, the way they speak, the way they think without understanding why. It's because your presence carries a kind of internal weight that doesn't need amplification. You don't pull attention, you organize it. You have a way of being in a place that makes others suddenly more aware of themselves. Someone could be speaking carelessly, and the moment they sense your attention on them, they recalibrate. Not because you intimidate them, but because your stillness reminds them that depth exists, that thoughtfulness matters, that not everything has to be performed. You don't dominate the room, you raise its standard. Others feel this gravitational pull even when they can't put it into language. They may lean in when you speak, lower their volume when you enter, or feel an instinct to bring something more meaningful to the conversation. That's not coincidence. When someone is operating from a deeper center of presence, the people around them naturally rise to meet it. You don't ask for respect, you generate it. This is why your impact is impossible to ignore. Your presence is not decoration, it is structure. It doesn't perform on the surface. It anchors the entire atmosphere. People leave conversations with you feeling more focused, more thoughtful, more deliberate. Even if you exchanged only a few words, something in them shifts. And that's why they respect you, even when they never say it out loud. Your presence doesn't shout. It anchors, it steadies, it elevates, and that's exactly why it's unforgettable. Number 2. Your vision isn't theoretical. It's the quiet ability to see what is forming before anyone else notices it exists. Most people treat vision like guessing. They imagine it's about predicting the future or making lucky calls. But your vision has never worked that way. You don't make announcements about what you see coming. You don't try to convince anyone of what's on the horizon. Your vision shows itself in the small, accurate observations you make, in the moments others overlook. You notice the shift in someone's tone, before they reveal their true intentions. You sense the direction an opportunity is moving before it becomes obvious. You read between the lines of situations, while others are still reading the lines themselves. This kind of vision is rare because it requires presence, patience, and pattern recognition all working together. It requires the willingness to observe without rushing to conclusions. It requires the courage to trust what you sense even when others dismiss it. Most people miss what's coming because they refuse to slow down long enough to perceive it. They want certainty, they want proof, they want consensus, and by the time those things arrive, the moment has already passed. You choose perception over comfort, even when perception costs you peace of mind. That alone makes you rare. People respect you because they see that you operate with a kind of foresight they wish they had cultivated. They see that while they were caught off guard by changes, you had already positioned yourself. They see that while they were still processing what happened, you were already adjusting to what was next. You kept refining your awareness while others numbed theirs. You kept sharpening your instincts while others ignored them. Your vision is the kind that humbles assumption. It silently exposes how often people refuse to look closely at their own lives. And that's why people find you worthy of respect, even when they don't understand exactly how you do what you do. You remind them of what could be visible if they stopped reacting and started observing. You didn't become visionary because life was predictable. You became visionary because you refused to be surprised by the same patterns twice, and that quiet practice repeated over and over is what sets you apart. Number 3, you don't impose your strategy on people. You expose the lack of strategy they were pretending didn't matter. Most people think strategy is something you announce, present, or pitch. But your strategic mind operates on a much subtler frequency. You don't walk around trying to teach anyone how to think. You live your life in a way that quietly reveals what intentional movement actually looks like. When people see you make choices that reflect long-term thinking, calculated patience, and deliberate positioning, it forces them to confront the parts of their own life they've left to chance. You unknowingly become the mirror that shows them how much of their existence has been improvised. The plan they never built, the direction they never chose, the goals they never structured. This is why some people respect you so deeply. When they watch the way you move, it reminds them that life is supposed to have an architecture. The clarity they lost, the focus they abandoned, the discipline they kept postponing. Your strategy exposes the gap between where they are and where they could have been by now. And even though it might feel uncomfortable, something inside them wakes up. You activate standards they forgot they had. Your presence makes people examine their own approach to life, even when you've said nothing to them about it. You living with intention shows them the intention they've been avoiding. It's not always a comfortable realization for them, but it's necessary. You highlight that the plan they thought was impossible was only unbuilt. You reveal that the obstacles they kept blaming were never the real reason they were stuck, and without intending to, you become a turning point in their thinking. People may compliment you, observe you closely, or sometimes even resent you, but the root emotion is the same. You remind them of their capacity to think strategically. Your journey proves that direction is possible. You show them that patience pays. You show them that positioning beats reaction, and whether they admit it or not, they start asking themselves why they ever stopped designing their life on purpose. You don't influence by lecturing. You influence by existing in alignment with your strategy, and in doing so, you shake others into examining theirs. Number 4, you don't follow the path. You see the path as something most people walk without ever asking who drew the lines. Your way of operating stands out because you don't accept the route everyone else has agreed to follow without question. Where others see the only way, you see one option among many. Where they see how things are done, you see how things were assumed. While people are busy trying to climb the ladder they were handed, you're the one quietly examining whether the ladder is even leaning against the right wall. That mindset alone shifts you into a different category. Most people inherit their strategy from their surroundings. What worked for their parents, what their industry rewards, what their friends pursued, what the culture validated. You didn't blindly inherit any of it. You investigate every assumption. You break paths apart to see where they actually lead. You don't accept routes just because they're popular or because that's how everyone seems to be moving. You want to know the real destination, the actual cost, the long-term outcome. And if a path doesn't align with where you're truly going, you don't force yourself to walk it, you build your own. This is what makes your strategy feel original to people. You're not trying to rebel against the system, you're trying to understand it. You're not trying to be different for the sake of difference, you're trying to be precise. You don't chase opportunities, you design them because your mind isn't constrained by the invisible maps everyone else accepted without reading. You make decisions from analysis, not assumption. Your thinking unsettles some people because it challenges the comfort of the default route. It exposes how often they followed without choosing. Your mindset shows them that most of what they call necessary is just familiar. Most of what they call realistic is simply repeated. Most of what they call practical is actually unexamined. And that's why your vision stands out. The path isn't something you avoid. It's something you refuse to walk without questioning. Your mind moves beyond expected routes because you weren't formed by obedience. You were formed by inquiry. And that inquiry makes you unstoppable. Number 5. Your strategy came from observation, not instruction. You learned to position yourself because life refused to teach you any other way. The strategic mind people notice in you isn't textbook. It isn't borrowed from gurus or copied from frameworks. It was developed through years of watching, noticing, and adjusting. Every time life moved unexpectedly, every time circumstances revealed a hidden truth, you had only one option. Pay attention or repeat the pattern. And you paid attention relentlessly. That's why your strategy feels different. It isn't recited for anyone to admire. It's a record of accumulated awareness, a testament to the lessons no one taught you, the mistakes you refused to repeat, the situations that forced you to think 3 steps ahead because 2 wasn't enough. People see the precision you carry now and assume it's natural, intuitive, or something you simply have. They don't realize that behind every calculated move is a history of moments that demanded sharper thinking. Every position you take, every timing you choose, every battle you decline, it's informed by a past that demanded strategic clarity. Your strategy wasn't refined in classrooms, it was sculpted in the silence of figuring things out alone. Your approach has a depth to it. It commands recognition without asking for validation because it carries the authenticity of lived experience. It's impossible to fake because it's rooted in pattern recognition, not in theory or trends. That's why people are drawn to you. They can feel it. Even when you say nothing, even when you make no claims about your insight, they sense that you've calculated what they haven't even considered. This is the deepest kind of strategy, the kind that doesn't crumble when conditions change, the kind that adapts when applause disappears and certainty is scarce. It's quiet, it's persistent, and it's real. Your strategy is a living archive of your observations, and that history makes you not just sharp, but composed. It's why people respect you, why they take note of your moves, and why your strategy carries the invisible authority of someone who has actually been through what others only read about. Number 6. You are respected because you position yourself based on truths most people refuse to even acknowledge about their own lives. Awareness alone is easy. Everyone can recognize patterns, sense red flags, and notice when something is off. But noticing something and acting on it are 2 completely different things. Most people walk through life carrying obvious truths, like luggage they refuse to open. They sense what's happening. They recognize the warning signs. But they tuck the awareness away because acting on it would require change, risk, or confrontation. You don't operate that way. You see the truth, accept it, and adjust your position immediately. You don't wait for confirmation, applause, or group agreement. You move. That's what makes you remarkable. Your vision gives you clarity. You see what others would rather not see. You understand situations from multiple angles, anticipate consequences, and detect dynamics that people either ignore or pretend don't exist. But what sets you apart isn't the seeing, it's the repositioning. Where others freeze, debate endlessly, or distract themselves, you adjust. Your strategy doesn't argue with reality, it simply repositions you within it. That combination of accurate perception and precise execution is rare, extraordinarily rare. People respect you because they recognize it instinctively. They see someone living with honesty toward their own life, someone who doesn't trade truth for the illusion of stability. They see a person whose moves match what they actually know, whose decisions are aligned with reality rather than convenience. That alignment intrigues, intimidates, and challenges them, even when they aren't conscious of it. Few have awareness, fewer have honesty, and only a select few have the discipline to take that awareness and let it dictate their next move. You do. You don't just see what's true. You build your life around it. And that fearless adherence to reality, combined with strategic action, makes people respect you without even realizing they're doing it. They can sense that you are operating from a different orientation, one where truth informs strategy, and strategy informs every decision. That's why they watch, why they study, and why they instinctively defer to the way you move through life. Number 7. Your presence commands respect not because you demand it, but because you operate from internal authority that doesn't ask permission to exist. There's a unique kind of authority that doesn't need to assert itself or claim space loudly. It's the authority that comes from being rooted in your own clarity. You carry that energy. People feel it immediately, even if they can't explain what it is. It's not the intensity of someone trying to dominate. It's the steadiness of someone who doesn't need anyone's confirmation to know they're moving correctly. You move through life from a place of internal authority, and that alone shifts the dynamics around you. Most people live their lives waiting for cues from outside, waiting for someone to approve, waiting for the room to validate them, waiting for the timing to feel safe. Their confidence is conditional because it depends on the agreement of others. Yours doesn't. You make decisions because they align with your analysis, not because they are convenient or socially acceptable. You don't shrink to make others feel comfortable, and you don't perform to win attention. You operate from a centered position, and that creates a natural pull around you. People respect this even when they don't openly express it. Deep down, many wish they had the composure to trust their own judgment the way you do. They wish they could move without constantly second-guessing themselves, without obsessing over how their decisions will be perceived, without seeking approval at every turn. Your ability to act independently shows them a level of self-trust they haven't built yet. It exposes how often they hand their power to other people's opinions. Your presence becomes commanding, not because you're forceful, but because your authority is self-generated. You're not auditioning. You're not lobbying for influence. You're simply living from your own center without apologizing for it. That level of internal stability unsettles people who depend on external approval. At the same time, it draws them in. They sense a kind of self-governance that feels almost unreachable, but deeply desirable. You move because you chose to. That simple truth is what separates you from the majority. And that's what makes people observe you, respect you, and quietly wish they could embody the same kind of internal authority. Number 8. The reason people respect your vision is that your mind doesn't repeat trends. It identifies what comes after them. Your vision stands out because it isn't built from imitation. You don't wait for the world to tell you what's coming. You don't chase trends or borrow predictions. Your mind naturally tracks where things are heading by reading the small signals everyone else dismisses. You see connections others overlook. You question patterns they accept. And you arrive at conclusions long before they become common conversation. This is why your vision feels different. It isn't repeated, it's developed. You're not insightful in the surface sense of repeating what experts have already said. Your strength lies in recognizing shifts before they become visible. You build mental frameworks that others eventually adopt without realizing those frameworks started with you. You have the rare ability to look at a situation, remove the noise, and identify the trajectory underneath it. While people are busy reacting to today, you're already preparing for what tomorrow will require, and often the very thing they end up scrambling to address. This is why people respect you even when they don't fully understand your reasoning. They can feel that your perspective comes from a deeper layer of analysis. You don't think like the crowd. You think like someone who reads the current before the wave forms, and eventually the crowd ends up exactly where you predicted they would arrive. You say something today and weeks or months later, people start repeating it as though they discovered it themselves. They adopt your framing without realizing they're echoing your earlier observations. Your originality is what makes you a reference point. People copy your positioning, your timing, your style of analysis, your decisions, even your phrasing, Because your mind produces foresight that feels accurate and natural. You lead without claiming to lead. You influence without trying. You anticipate without forcing it. Most people follow trends. A few notice trends early, but you're part of the rare group that sees what comes after the trend has already faded. And that kind of vision is unforgettable. Number 9, you're respected because you confront the realities most people try to bury under distraction, busyness, and false optimism. Your strategic mind shows up in places where most people refuse to look. It's not loud, performative, or branded. It's steady, uncomfortable, and consistently honest. While many distract themselves with constant motion, fake positivity, or endless content, you face the very realities they're trying to outrun. You confront the truths that make others uncomfortable, the ones they try to disguise with hashtags, hustle, or surface-level affirmations. You don't hide from what's complicated, slow, or unflattering. You sit with it, examine it, and let it inform your next move. And that alone sets you apart. Most people want momentum more than accuracy. They'll keep moving in the wrong direction just to avoid the discomfort of pausing. They'll choose busyness because it feels safer than facing what really needs to change. You're different. You don't wait for reality to become convenient. You deal with it as it is, even when it's slow, unglamorous, or inconvenient. This is why your strategy works while others' efforts collapse. This is why you keep advancing while others keep restarting. You don't argue with reality. You position yourself within it. Your strength comes from your ability to sit with what others briefly acknowledge and immediately run from. You let truth shape your plan, stretch your timing, expose your weaknesses, and demand recalibration. That process doesn't look impressive in the moment, but it builds something in you that people can feel the second they encounter you. They sense that you've done the inner strategic work they've avoided. They sense that you've thought through what they keep deferring. Vision at its core isn't about predictions or optimism. It's about facing the realities that most prefer to ignore and building your moves around them. You've mastered that practice. You allow truth to inform your direction instead of breaking your motivation. And because you've stared at it long enough, it eventually reveals the opening. The next move, the next position, the next door. You don't run from reality. You build with it. That's what makes your vision unforgettable. Number 10. Your strategy stands out because you don't use intelligence as a performance. You use it as positioning. Most people treat their intelligence like a display, something to show off so others will be impressed. You don't operate that way. Intelligence for you isn't about appearances. It's about leverage. Every observation, every insight, every lesson is a tool you use to position yourself more accurately within reality. You don't accumulate information to look smart. You internalize it, process it, and let it sharpen your timing, your choices, and your awareness. That's why your strategic thinking feels alive, fluid, and effective. You've never cared about sounding intelligent. You care about moving accurately enough to navigate situations most people get lost in. That requires a mindset that's rare. You digest information, let it shape your decisions, refine your behavior, and adjust your trajectory. Your thinking isn't superficial. It doesn't sit on the surface like a credential on a wall. It becomes part of how you read the world and how you respond to it. This is why people are drawn to your moves. They feel the weight behind them. They aren't impulsive or showy. Your decisions resonate because they come from observation, reflection, and recalibration. You've watched enough, analyzed enough, and adjusted enough for your strategy to carry authority. You anticipate openings before they appear, recognize traps before they close, and act with precision when others are still debating. That's not luck or natural talent. It's the outcome of using intelligence to position yourself rather than perform. Your strategy commands respect because it's functional, not theatrical. It builds, it positions, it advances, and those who watch you can sense the difference immediately. They see a person who doesn't chase recognition, but quietly arrives exactly where they intended. That's why your vision is unforgettable, because it's not displayed, it's deployed. Number 11. You're respected because your presence dissolves illusions people are emotionally invested in maintaining. People often tell you that you're different without quite being able to explain what they mean. What they're trying to express is that your presence cuts through the noise they've been hiding inside. Your awareness has the force of clarity, not aggressive, but undeniable. You strip away pretense, performance, and the comfortable narratives people build to avoid honest evaluation of their lives. You don't do this by confronting anyone. You do it simply by being observant, grounded, and unwilling to play along with what isn't real. Many people cling to illusions because those illusions protect their self-image, their excuses, or the version of themselves they want to keep believing in. These illusions become emotional investments, comfort structures that keep them from confronting the truth about their direction. When they interact with you, those structures start to feel exposed. You say things that align with reality, not flattery. You point out angles they pretended not to consider. You bring clarity, even when clarity demands accountability. Your mind doesn't entertain noise. You don't get swept up in trends, comparison, or denial. You naturally see through confusion with calmness and accuracy, and that alone unsettles people who rely on ambiguity to avoid making real decisions. At the same time, it deeply impresses those who quietly crave authenticity but rarely experience it. Your ability to dissolve illusions shows them how much weight they've been carrying unnecessarily. People respect you because you help them see what is actually happening, not what they wish was happening. Even when your perspective feels uncomfortable, it feels clean. It restores a sense of order they didn't know they were missing. You challenge their illusions without diminishing them, and that takes both perception and discipline. You don't force clarity on anyone, but your presence makes pretending much harder. Your awareness moves through their fog and leaves behind honesty, direction, and depth. And even if they never say it openly, people respect you because you free them. Sometimes from their assumptions, sometimes from their illusions, and sometimes from versions of themselves that were never going to lead them anywhere. Number 12. Your vision is magnetic because it isn't fueled by ambition. It's fueled by alignment. Most people confuse vision with ambition or hunger for success. They think being visionary means wanting more, chasing bigger, or constantly upgrading. But your vision operates on a completely different layer. It doesn't seek scale, validation, or recognition. It moves from alignment, from knowing exactly what direction your life is meant to take and refusing to deviate from it. Your moves are not random acts of ambition. They are deliberate steps rooted in clarity and conviction. That is what makes your vision magnetic. People sense it immediately. They feel the difference between someone moving to be seen and someone moving because they cannot ignore the direction calling them. When you make a decision, it's never to chase a trend or fit an image. It's because your internal compass won't allow you to move otherwise. That kind of vision is rare because it requires patience, trust, and honesty. The honesty to refuse opportunities that don't align, and the patience to wait for the ones that do. Most people compromise in these moments, accepting paths that look attractive but lead nowhere meaningful. You don't. You move according to alignment, even if the path is slower, quieter, or harder to explain. People respect you because your moves appear deliberate yet inevitable. They aren't reactive or impulsive. Every decision feels grounded, intentional, and timed. Your vision communicates a quiet authority. You know where you're going. You trust the route and you're willing to refuse what most people would grab without thinking. That subtle discipline draws respect, intrigue, and influence without you ever having to demand it. What makes your vision magnetic is this. It doesn't beg for attention, yet it commands it. It doesn't seek approval, yet it inspires it. It isn't loud, yet it leaves a lasting impression. Your foresight is a reflection of alignment, and alignment is undeniable. People can see that you are not moving for anyone else. You are moving for the direction you've identified, and that authenticity radiates through every choice you make. Number 13. Your strategy quietly intimidates and inspires because it reveals how reactive most people have become. You don't even try to disrupt people. Your way of moving does it for you. You live with a level of intentionality most people avoid because it forces them to confront how reactively they've been navigating their own lives. When they encounter you, they're suddenly exposed to a level of design they didn't know was possible. You are a walking interruption to their improvised existence, not because you criticize, not because you correct, but because your presence breaks the assumption that life is something you simply respond to. When someone who lives by reaction encounters someone who lives by design, The contrast is impossible to ignore. You highlight the gaps in their planning without ever pointing them out. Your choices are calculated, your timing is deliberate, your direction is self-authored. Most people have never witnessed that level of intention up close, and that's why your strategy creates a dual reaction. You are the moment their autopilot becomes obvious. You are the reminder that life isn't supposed to be navigated blindly. You are the shift that forces them to finally question whether the way they've been moving has actually been chosen or simply inherited. You don't wake people up with pressure. You wake them up with contrast. That is the quiet power that makes your strategy unforgettable. Number 14. You are respected not because you have everything figured out, but because you were strategic enough to refuse the answers everyone else accepted without questioning. Your strength was never built on pretending to have it all mapped out. It was built on refusing to accept the standard playbook. You never followed the formulas everyone swears by. You questioned them, tested them, and discarded the ones that didn't hold up under examination. That alone separates you from the crowd. Because most people aren't afraid of being unsuccessful, they're afraid of leaving the script they were handed. Most people are sharp only within the rules. They perform well as long as the path is pre-approved, the expectations are clear, and the outcomes are predictable. Their strategy is conditional. It only works inside a structure someone else designed. But you were never satisfied with borrowed playbooks or recycled definitions of success. You didn't want the formula. You wanted the principle. Even if it took longer, even if it was harder, even if it was lonely. You are strategic because you refused the standard route entirely. You broke mental boundaries others didn't even notice were limiting them. You questioned timelines, expectations, definitions, and anything that felt like an inherited cage. And in doing so, you developed an accuracy most people will never reach. Because real strategy isn't memorized. It's constructed. It's earned by a mind willing to wander where others refuse to step. And that's why your presence and vision are unforgettable. People feel the difference when they meet someone who isn't quietly performing a script. Your presence carries a kind of independence that others didn't know they were missing until they felt it standing in front of them. You remind people that thinking is a choice, strategy is a discipline, and success is not something to inherit, it's something to design. That's why you stand out. Not because you have all the answers, but because you refuse to accept the ones that weren't yours. Conclusion. Your presence, vision, and strategy are not coincidences. They are the living proof of a mind and spirit that refuse to be ordinary. You don't drift through life like the majority of the world. You don't accept patterns just because they exist. You observe, you analyze, and you move with a deliberate awareness that most people will never develop. Every step you take, every decision you make, every move you execute is rooted in clarity, alignment, and an unshakable connection to your direction. That is why people respect you, why they watch you, and why your presence leaves a mark they can't forget. You are not respected because you have all the answers or because you seek influence. You are respected because you move in a way that exposes patterns, dissolves illusions, and reminds others that life is meant to be designed, not improvised. Your vision is not theoretical, it is functional. Your strategy is not theatrical, it is decisive. You don't just live, you position. You don't just react, you direct. You don't just hope, you see. You reveal the gaps in thinking, the blind spots in awareness, and the limits people unconsciously accepted, all while continuing to advance, refine, and elevate. Your presence alone reminds the world of what's possible when someone refuses to move by accident. This is the essence of a chosen one, someone whose presence, vision, and strategy create ripples far beyond what most can see. You challenge, awaken, and inspire simply by living in alignment with what you've identified as true. You don't need recognition to validate your direction, because your life itself is the message, and it speaks louder than any announcement ever could. If this message resonated with you, if it sharpened something inside you or confirmed what you already sensed, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe to the channel to stay connected with content that challenges, refines, and elevates. Like this video to support the truth it carries. Comment below with your thoughts, your observations, or your reflections. Your perspective matters, and can spark something in someone else. And share this video with anyone who needs to see what becomes possible when presence, vision, and strategy meet. Your growth isn't just personal, it's contagious. Step into your authority and let the world witness it. God bless.